Hello, friends. This is Sharon from Natural Awakenings Magazine. And during this stressful time, I know all of us are feeling unsettled. And what do we do? And how do we manage the stress? I was laying in bed the other night and I had a gripping chest pain. I couldn't even roll. It was so painful. And initially I was like, oh my God, am I having a heart attack? But then I realized there's no pain going down my arm. I'm overreacting. Everything's going to be fine. But as a result of that, I reached out to Dr. Vivian Kominos, who is a renowned cardiologist, a student of Dr. Andrew Weil, and a teacher in his program, and bonded in Integrative Medicine, because I think Dr. Vivian could really give us some advice for how do we navigate through this period. So thank you so much for being with me today, Dr. Vivian, and please take it away.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Thanks for having me. What you experienced is probably possibly a panic attack. Were you nervous at the time that the chest discomfort started?
I'm still nervous.
The problem with chest discomfort is we often don't know if it's coming from a heart attack or if it's coming from the heart. Because, the ancient people, as a matter of fact, believed that our intellect, our brain, was centered in our mid-region in our chest, because this is where we feel our emotions. This is where we feel stress. And it's possible that, and likely that the chest discomfort you had was from stress. However, I want to tell people, you can't always know. So if you're having chest discomfort, if you're short of breath, if you're sweating, if you feel like you're very fatigued, if you're having palpitations, if you get lightheaded, these are all symptoms that could signify that you have heart disease, and you should really call 911 rather than diagnosing yourself. But anyway, I'm glad to see you're good and you're smiling, Sharon. This is a time that's unprecedented in our generation. This virus is a threat like nothing we've ever seen. And all of us, myself included, even though I practice transcendental meditation twice a day, are overly stressed. We're in a state of hyperarousal because we've seen the news. It's all around us. This virus is dangerous. And I think that a lot of us are just now beginning to realize the threat that this virus poses. So there are a lot of things we can do to try to dampen the stress response. The first is to protect ourselves. And I think that, this has been mentioned over and over again. There's no such thing as overprotection when it comes to this virus. I listened to a 2-hour webinar yesterday that was given by the Chinese Cardiology Association, and they have seen a lot. And people with heart disease, when they get this virus, are at higher risk. And what they stressed is there's no such thing as overprotection. We have to self-quarantine, and we have to not associate with others for at least the next several weeks, possibly even longer. Once you come to grips with that and you accept it, your stress level will go down. But you just have to accept that life is not going to be what we used to seeing or being as normal. So what are the things, though, that you can do to stay safe? What I recommend to everybody is to start a meditative type of practice. And, when I say meditation, some people immediately think, oh, I can't do that. I can't relax my mind. You don't have to consciously relax your mind. The first thing you can do is do some breath work. Go on your internet and look up 478. It's a breath that Dr. Weil taught me. One of the first classes I had with him when I started the 2-year fellowship in Integrative Medicine with the University of Arizona. And what happens is you're breathing in through your nose while you're counting to yourself to 4. Then you hold it for a count of 7. And then you exhale through your mouth, right, through pursed lips for a count of 8. When you exhale twice as long as you inhale, you're automatically recruiting the relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system. And you only have to do this breath about 4 or 5 times. And when you do that, you're going to sense a calmness. So I've taught this breath to my patients probably for the last 13 years or so, and I've heard very good results from it, and I practice it myself. You can go online and you can practice it with Dr. Weil. It doesn't matter if you breathe rapidly or slowly, as long as you keep the 4-7-8 cadence. So that's a very simple thing. It takes less than a minute. You can do it in the morning, you could do it in the afternoon, you could do it in the evening, and you could teach it to your children. You know, in places like India, children learn how to meditate when they're 7 or 8 or 9 years old. They're taught many different methods. We don't have that here. The other thing you can do is you can go online to tm.org, transcendentalmeditation.org. I'm trained in this technique. What I like about it is that it's an effortless system. You are taught how to meditate by being given an individual mantra. The other thing I like about transcendental meditation is that we have a lot of research on it, and it decreases recurrent heart disease events in people that have heart disease. It decreases diabetes, it decreases stress, it improves insomnia. I had a pretty tough time sleeping through times in my life. This has helped. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing you could do is get outside if it's not crowded. If you live in a town like I do, where I have options to go into the beach, to the woods, and get outside in nature. Nature is really, really healing. Green space. Now that the sun is starting to come out, now that the weather is better, we need to get outside and get some fresh air. Just don't be around other people. There was a thing on the news yesterday, Sharon, about on a beach in Florida, people were just like right up next to each other. I don't get it. I think there's still people that don't get it. Again, you can't overprotect. So definitely get outside, get exercise, and you don't have to be an athlete. I meet my patients where they're at. So if my patients are sedentary, I get them to just walk or move for a few minutes several times a day. So we found that walking 10 minutes 3 times a day is as effective in reducing heart disease as walking 30 minutes in one shot. So this is really good. If you only have 2 minutes that are free, but now you may have more free time if you're not going to work, get out several times, or walk in your house, or put on a yoga program. My yoga studio is having yoga through Zoom meetings now, and you can sign up for those. So that's really, really important to get outside. And the other thing that I can't stress enough is healthy nutrition. Eating a colorful plate, having 3/4 of your plate comprised of different vegetables is the way to go. And have meat and carbohydrates as a condiment almost. The processed carbohydrates. Obviously, there's carbohydrates in vegetables. Those are the good carbohydrates. And we can have whole grains too. And stay connected. Stay connected to the people you love. Unfortunately, I'm separated from my son. He lives in New York City, and so does my daughter-in-law. They're afraid to come here because we're old and we're more at risk than they are. At the same time, I'm afraid for them because they have more exposure. They don't have the open space that we have. And, I think it's really important at this time to FaceTime, to connect with people, talk to people. I love looking at you, Sharon. I have been a hermit in my home since Friday when I was at the clinic, and I came home and I said, this is bad. This is really bad. I'm not going out. I've only gone out for exercise. I haven't seen anybody except my husband for the last 6 days. And it may take 2 weeks. It may take a month. I'm monitoring, the cases, and until they start going down and we don't have new cases, I think we really have to stay somewhat, in self-quarantine. So what can we do? We could play games with our loved ones. just find ways to still connect socially. A lot of people ask me about supplements. I've had some patients email me and say, what can I do? Well, there is really no evidence for the treatment of coronavirus with drugs. So there are some drugs on the market now that are being tested, but there's no evidence that supplements are going to treat it. However, some supplements can increase our immunity and make it better. I like to rely on food, but it's good if you're deficient in certain nutrients to take supplements. So I can't blanketly recommend any supplements, but we know that vitamin C is good, vitamin D is good, melatonin is good. Again, don't rush out and buy these. I think they're already sold out. I tried to get myself some vitamin C, and it was sold out. So I think people have already heard that. And that's basically it. I think we have to just realize that what we're feeling is a response, the stress response, that is designed to allow us to survive. If we didn't have a stress response, we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't be Homo sapiens at this point. Because remember, stress response is really an adaptive mechanism to get us ready to fight or to flee. The problem is when we view every stressor as a major catastrophe and we never recover from the stress response. So do the breath work, take a break by walking, connect with your loved ones so that you can recover somewhat from this stress.
That was amazing, Dr. Vivian. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I agree 100%. It's so funny when you went into the breath work and I wrote it down. That's exactly what I did. 4 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds. And it only took 5 times and I calmed down.
You feel yourself coming down. And for people that are more short of breath, I'm sorry for interrupting, but it doesn't have to be seconds. It could be longer than a second or shorter than a second. Some of my patients with lung disease need to do it quicker. And other patients that are yogis can do it, and have it last a long time. But you felt it, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
And thank you for sharing these other tips with us. And I hope that we can check back with you next week because you'll have...
Let's hope we have better news.
Yes. Let's hope.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time today.
Be well, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.